Do it messy. That's one of my coach's favorite things to say to us when I was coaching with her. Just do it messy. So we're doing it messy here at Pressure Free because Pressure Free is not about perfection. It's about protection. It's about protection from releasing and triggering the stress response. So if you saw yesterday's show, I shared what how this all started, how Pressure Free all started and why it works, like the science behind it. So on Tuesdays, I'm going to share a certain tool. I have over 50 tools, so every week, every Tuesday, I should be able to share a tool with you. And today I chose the tool Empowering Questions. One of the things I've been contemplating over the past couple months is the concept of controlling the controllables. What is it that we can control, and what is it that we can't control? When I think about, actually, I surveyed once at a conference, I surveyed people to see what their top triggers were and the things that stress them out the most. And in the top three was the daily news, which I thought was pretty interesting. The media definitely likes it when we stay triggered because we buy things. We have two mechanisms in our brain that are responsible for impulse for what's the word I'm trying to think of for the ability to say no to things or yes to things. You know what I'm talking about there, like willpower, like the willpower to make decisions like that. That actually shuts down in fight or flight. So that's why you may binge eat or say you're going to work out in the evening and then you don't because you just couch potato it and keep clicking the remote. We have very little willpower when we're in under the influence of these hormones. So thinking about that and thinking about the news, there's so many things that are out of our control that we trigger the stress response about. In fact, I would say probably um, maybe even 80% of the things that we are releasing these hormones over are out of our control. It's somebody else doing something. It's you driving down the road and somebody cutting you off. Um, it's the news. It's a text message. It's somebody's tone of voice. And so I have two empowering questions. The tool I have for you is empowering questions. And what is an empowering question? It's a question that powers you towards solution. Your brain loves questions, which is why we designed our search engines on our computers as questions like, how can I da 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 da? So when you ask your brain a question that starts with a how can I, or what can I, or what might I, or if you're a team, you're working with others, it could be how can we, or what might we do here? How can we solve this easily? So the first question I have for you today to think about is what can I control? So if you're feeling a situation, any sort of tension in your mind or body, you can pause for a moment and you can ask yourself, what can I control here? Maybe you've watched something on the news and it's really upsetting you. It's like, okay, pause. You've got that 10-second window before you'll trigger fight or flight. Is this worth messing up your body and mind for up to 24 hours or up to 9 hours for hours and hours? Your cells are going to be compromised. Like, is this piece of news worth releasing these hormones? The real true reason for fight or flight, for the stress response, is to protect ourselves from a physical attack. So you can ask yourself that question, am I under attack here? Now, certain ideologies, certain thoughts, things people say, things going on in the news may feel like an attack, but you're not actually under physical attack in that moment. So I have two empowering questions for you to consider here. And when I think about the pressure-free method, these two questions can be kind of that first swath of, okay, let's do some discernment here. Can I control this? If I can't control it, you can ask that empowering question, how can I control my response? I think it actually started when I had my children in the car. I became a very non-pressure free driver. I was like on the lookout for anything going on, and it probably got exacerbated because we were at a stoplight and a fellow had looked down and not seen the stoplight and rear-ended us pretty severely, totaled our car, pushed us right into the car in front of us. And so I think that experience, coupled with the fact that, I just wanted to make sure everybody was safe, that was a really big deal for me. Um, I've triggered the stress response constantly. I didn't realize I was doing it, but just the smallest thing happening. And once I learned this method and I understood that every time I release those hormones, I'm actually not functioning very well as a driver. I'm looking for threats. I'm not actually driving the way I could best be driving. So that got me thinking, okay, so what can I do to counteract that? I kept relaxing my abs. I kept asking this empowering question like, how can I have a beautiful drive here? We were hockey parents. We were travel hockey parents driving all over the state, all over the Midwest, in blizzards and snowstorms, and hockey never gives up. Like it's rarely canceled. So there were plenty of times for me to practice. And I clearly remember this time that I was headed to a game with one of my sons, and the road was just pure ice and cars were all off on the side of the road. And I remember relaxing my hands, so I didn't tighten on the steering wheel. I relaxed my hands and went right over the ice, just absolutely fine. And that was a huge, and I didn't release those stress hormones. Like it was a huge change for me to be that calm and that confident that everything was going to be fine in that moment. So I controlled my response. Otherwise, my response would have been completely different. Is this making sense? So asking yourself empowering questions. These are just two that I've popped up for you. I actually have a little system that I use because typically the stressors today are not so much physical attacks on us, but they're thoughts in our head, situations, um, like the black ice on the road, things like that. So when I have that happen in my head, like I'm going in a negative direction, a direction that's not going to be helpful to me, I'll pause and I'll look up in my head and I'll smile. And there's reasons for this. I'll explain it. Like I'll smile and I'll look up and I'll go, caught you. And then the next thing I'll do is ask that empowering question. So the smile is incredibly powerful because you release these little neuropeptides, they're little proteins that allow your cortex and hippocampus to keep working for you. In fight or flight, that all shuts down somewhat. You're in your reactive brain. You're in a brain mindset where you're looking for threats, which is why vision may change for you. You're also not going to hear things quite the way that you usually do, which is why someone may say, hey, make sure you take out the garbage, and you completely forget and don't take out the garbage, you didn't even lodge the memory. This is also why if you're in a networking situation or at a conference or at a social gathering and you meet someone new, 5 seconds later, you can't remember their name. So we're not stupid. We have these amazing brains. But if we've triggered those hormones, this is shut off somewhat. We want this to work for us. So I will ask empowering questions like, well, how can I stay calm here? How can I do this easily? How can I finish this um, elegantly? Like our brain also loves descriptive words, so adjectives and adverbs can be really helpful here. So come up with some words. I have my clients actually write out some questions that can be helpful to them. Um, but it's truly incredible when you start turning around a lot of those thoughts that are consumed with the things that we cannot control. So then another thing I've been thinking is like control the controllables. What are the controllables? Well, we can control our reaction to certain things. We can control our timing. So if you find yourself always running a little late and then you're rushing and then you're adrenalized, what can you do to counteract that? Even if you just ask yourself, how can I start my day earlier? If you ask your brain that question and just let it sit, don't push it or force answers, just let it sit, your brain will come up with amazing answers to that. I'll share a scenario to close out today. So I was asked to play a piece of music by Mozart with a choir. I'm the soloist. And I got the music about, I don't know, 2 weeks ahead of time practicing. I hit a passage and my brain goes, oh crap, you can't play this fast enough. You're going to ruin the performance. So I stopped myself and I smiled. I looked up, and by the way, I didn't feel like smiling. I was very annoyed at myself for not being able to play this particular passage, but I smiled anyway. I asked myself this question. I said, how can I always play this passage beautifully? So, how can I always play this passage beautifully? I stood back from the music, came up with a couple ideas. I like wrote them in my score. But it wasn't until 20, 30 minutes later when I was driving that it was like an electric bolt of energy came into my chest and a booming Eastern European male voice said, you're screwing your bow too tightly. Release it 2 revolutions and you will play the passage just fine. I was like, oh my gosh, who was that? It was one of my professors at the University of Michigan. I had done a lot of fast work with him, and he had taught me that my bow was too tight. So we have hair on our bow and a little screw on the end. Funny story, I have 2 bows. My good bow was broken for 2 years before the Mozart. I got it fixed just before the Mozart. Apparently, my good bow takes fewer revolutions of this little screw. So I went ahead and I just went like because you don't think about it, just grab your bow and do it. Released it 2 revolutions, and I played the passage perfectly, like absolutely perfectly. I didn't even need those 2 things I had written in my music. So one of the keys to an empowering question really working well for you is to not force answers. Don't fret over answers. That's counteractive to pressure free. What you want to do is just ask that question and let the answers come up organically. Let them just kind of flow for you. It'll be very interesting to see what comes for you. My clients have all kinds of almost miraculous solutions to things that were causing them so much distress over the years. And when you start asking that empowering question, it can really turn it around for you. So if you are, and I haven't checked my phone to see if anybody's on here, um, but yeah, it's let's just take a look and see if anybody's on here. I really wish you a great pressure-free day, of course. And if you're on here, I see a couple people have taken a look. And so if you're watching and you want to come into my Zoom room for a moment, I'll stay on here. I'm going to close out the Facebook Live. I'll just stay on here for a moment if you want to come in, if you have any questions about this. Um, if you didn't see yesterday's about how this all started and why it works, you can go ahead and look there. And yeah, just play around with some empowering questions. That will be fun for you. And this weekend, on Friday and Saturday, um, Friday night, 8 to 9 Eastern, is a meet and greet. And then from 10 to 4 on Saturday, I'm hosting a planning retreat. And it's a very unusual planning retreat. It's not your typical one. It's extremely practical and based on pressure free. And yeah, I'd love to have you come if you're at all interested. In the meantime, keep asking those empowering questions and have a great day. Bye.